Hello and welcome to the Hidden History series. What is a stone circle? What are ley lines? In this episode, we will be discussing sites from the Neolithic Age and Bronze Age and the alignments of geomagnetic ley lines which link with these ancient sites. Although ley lines date back in the narrative we have been given to the 17th century, they go back a lot further to the antediluvian period, the Neolithic Age and the Bronze Age. Throughout the United Kingdom of Great Britain, there are numerous geomagnetic ley lines, just as there are in France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, and elsewhere in mainland Europe. Around planet Earth, there is an extremely potent geomagnetic grid that can be used to harness the boundless telluric electricity from the atmosphere and from below the surface of the ground. Going back to as early as the Stone Age, the Neolithic tribes were fully aware of these locations and potency of them. This is why such massive stone circles were built. With such geomagnetic capacitors, tribes could harness the telluric electricity. But during the last 75 years, these precious sites seem to have been forgotten or become disused. They have become inverted to the spiritual use of these electrical potent landscapes. Although many people refer to Alfred Watkins in 1921 as the first to bring this information to light on ley lines in the version of history we have been given, it was actually William Stokely in the 17th century who initially realised these were landscape alignments in the United Kingdom of Great Britain. He effectively revealed that geomagnetic ley lines and intersections, nodes or dimensional vortices were prevalent in the British Isles. William Stokely pioneered the scholarly researches of the prehistoric monuments of Stonehenge in Wiltshire, England, and the Neolithic henge called Avebury Circle, which is also in Wiltshire. It was on the 30th of June 1921 the famous Englishman who was a member of the Royal Photographic Society of Great Britain made a remarkable discovery. Because Alfred Watkins had become a self-taught archaeologist, he noticed that sites from the Neolithic Age in the United Kingdom all fell into an exact alignment. Both man-made and natural-looking monuments could be connected by exactly straight pathways. Alfred Watkins described these routes as ley lines and opened up the electromagnetic parameters of supernatural and spiritual beliefs. Alfred Watkins wrote 3 very important books which he confirmed that geomagnetic ley lines resonate in exact alignments across the United Kingdom of Great Britain. In the book The Old Straight Track, its mounds, beacons, moats, sites and markstones, Alfred Watkins argued that geomagnetic ley lines represented trading routes of the antediluvian period and the Neolithic Age, which the communities of the British Isles regularly used. The straight lines allowed the Neolithic tribes and Celtic Britons to travel from a single location to another as quickly as possible. Locations such as Stonehenge, Avebury Circle are believed to be Neolithic temples of telluric electrical potency that incorporated geomagnetic ley lines and earth energies. For the Irish Druids, the British Druids and the Celtic Britons, these sites were respected for reasons of optimal biological health and because the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane could be reached by entering the intersection of geomagnetic ley lines or nodes that functioned like dimensional portals. So the spiritual development of the Celtic Britons was entirely linked with sites like Stonehenge and Avebury Circle. Other essential sites were the Rollright Stones in Oxfordshire, Michel's Fold in southwestern Shropshire, and Castlerigg Stone Circle that is located nearby to Keswick in west central Cumbria. Each of the Irish and British Druids were fully aware of how subterranean waterways flow beneath the ley lines, and the telluric currents were always potent in specific expanses of the Septrid Isle that was once called Albion, then Britain. Perhaps it was the case that this kind of advanced technology came from the civilization of the Atlantean continent and the Atlantean islands, and was covertly brought into the British Isles during the antediluvian period, or the Upper Paleolithic, where the usage of this technology was studied. Although we look at sites like Stonehenge and other stone circles as just rocks placed on the earth, these are highly advanced structures that were built to activate this earth energy. Although not discussed in the mainstream, it was the Albion giants that actually constructed Stonehenge and the Neolithic tribes. They were obsessed with subterranean electrical waterways and the harmonic surface patterning such waterways emitted. It is a well-known fact that subterranean waterways are an excellent conductor of telluric electricity. Humans were once fully aware of the subterranean waterways and intentionally built upon the geomagnetic nodes to create potent dimensional portals into the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane. These subterranean waterways that are excellent conductors of telluric electricity are found at Stonehenge, and a map was produced by the master dowser Guy Irwin Underwood. Wherever the subterranean waterways are located in the United Kingdom of Great Britain, there will be a piezoelectric current which then accumulates until the current becomes telluric electricity and forms a geomagnetic concentration. In such locations across Dorset, Wiltshire, Somerset and Gloucestershire, as with other areas in the United Kingdom, many kinds of earthlights then emerge and shimmer in the evening time or early hours of the morning. Guy Irwin Underwood made 207 visits to Stonehenge and produced 105 surveys of the earth energies, fault lines and water lines situated at this site. Notice that numerous subterranean waterways radiate from beneath the hillstone of Stonehenge and the altar stone. These piezoelectric streams produce a geomagnetic potency as well as producing a triad basis aquatic line that water diviners are familiar with. Standing stones are rooted in the soil and gravel above intensely potent geomagnetic ley lines or aquatic ley lines. Such knowledge was taught among the Irish and British Druids. The various megaliths function like telluric capacitors or batteries, continually absorbing and releasing this form of magnetic-based electricity, which the Neolithic tribes, the Celtic Britons and Druids used for healing purposes. Guy Irwin Underwood also found a Druid temple near the Cuckoo Stone, an effigy of a spirit animal nearby to the Cursus monument, which is the sacred guardian of Stonehenge, and several ceremonial avenues which linked Stonehenge to the outer lying round barrows. Many of the surveys, including the Druid Temple, are reproduced in the book written by Dennis Yates Wheatley, Maria Wheatley and Guy Irwin Underwood, called Stonehenge: An Investigation into Earth Energies, that was published in November 2008. The unique Great Circle at Stonehenge is also situated above several meandering fault lines which encircle the monument. The renowned English polymath and broadcaster called Paul Devereux points out that fault lines are intimately associated with earthlights, unknown luminescent balls of telluric electricity which for reasons unknown appear in close proximity to them. Paul Devereux is a co-founder and the managing editor of the academic publication Time and Mind, the Journal of Archaeology. consciousness and culture, and a research fellow with the International Consciousness Research Laboratories at Princeton University in the United States. Earthlights have been witnessed at Stonehenge on Salisbury Plain in southeastern Wiltshire, and if they closely followed the fault line route, the effect would have been spectacular, as the earthlights would encircle Stonehenge. Perhaps this is why the megalithic sites were aligned upon them, as earthlights were witnessed during these important ceremonies. Dennis Yates Wheatley studied the efforts of Guy Irwin Underwood and was considered a reliable preserver of the Earth energy geodetic system, which Guy Irwin Underwood clearly discovered. Even though Dennis Wheatley passed away on the 10th of November 1977, 2 of his books after his death were formatted and published. These books were Dowsing, the Only Introduction You'll Ever Need, that was published on the 3rd of July, year 2000, and The Principles of Dowsing, that was published on the 1st of November 2000. Both these writings conveyed information about the concealed interlinking ley lines found at Stonehenge and reproduced various Earth energy geodetic surveys that Guy Irwin Underwood had developed and used and produced in his book The Pattern of the Past, that was published in 1972. The daughter of Dennis Wheatley, who was called Maria Wheatley, who founded the Esoteric College, has continued the researches of her father, and Maria Wheatley is also considered to be a leading expert on the Earth energy geodetic system. Maria Wheatley is a tarot astrologer, master dowser and druidess, who was the sacred geometry guide for the venerated American clinical hypnotherapist called Dolores Cannon. A telluric current, or energetic resonances of Mother Nature and planet Earth, is an electric current that flows underground or through the sea, resulting from natural and human-induced causes. These currents have extremely low frequency and traverse large areas nearby to or at the surface of planet Earth. Such pulsing telluric electricity can be seen with the Avebury lights of the Neolithic henge called Avebury Circle in north-central Wiltshire. Such forms of telluric electricity are also called the West Country Earth Lights and the Avebury Circle Lights. There is no accident, but next to or around these megalithic sites around the United Kingdom of Great Britain, mainland Europe and elsewhere on planet Earth, you will often find military bases and other kinds of martial installations. Next to Stonehenge and many sites, you will find these military bases, and often they are very popular in UFO or UAP sightings, and this is by no accident. Have personnel who understand this knowledge and use it for negatively focused intentions. Is Stonehenge and Avebury Circle used for ceremonial rituals? Is it our lack of knowledge and wanting to learn about these sites that has allowed them to become inverted and separate from the truth to what we are? These are all questions to consider, because we can reactivate these sites at any time we wish if we choose to want to and understand the supernatural knowledge that is all around us if we listen to it. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Hidden History. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next week.